coming.
I'm not sure that the world is ready to receive this.
If you don't answer the fire bell when you're a fireman, things burn to the ground. And that's exactly what's going to happen to America. It's going to burn to the ground.
Get out, get out, get out.
Recession, depression, currency wars, trade wars, and you know the rest, world war.
I see a total systemic collapse of the United States. I see a total systemic collapse of the US dollar and the financial system, which is why I urge everybody to get out, get out, get out.
$100 trillion economic extinction level event is about to strike America. Viewer discretion is advised.
We are moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of desperation, anguish, and national disaster. Our next stop, America's coming nightmare.
It's the final countdown.
Our federal government, military, and intelligence community have begun to implement emergency measures, yet the American people have been kept in the dark about everything.
Recently, all 16 branches of our intelligence community have come together to release a shocking briefing that contained an alarming consensus. These agencies, that include the CIA, FBI, Army, and Navy, they've already begun to estimate the impact of the fall of the dollar as the global reserve currency, and our reign as the world's leading superpower being annihilated in a way equivalent to the end of the British Empire post-World War II. And the endgame could be a nightmarish scenario where the world falls into an extended period of global anarchy. And we're on the verge of entering the darkest economic period in our nation's history, one that will ignite a 25-year Great Depression.
Some might be surprised to learn that the fate of America's economy has already been determined, verified, and announced by the Obama White House. Yet, it has received scant attention from the corporate media. In 2011, economist Kyle Bass interviewed a senior member of the Obama administration about its planned solutions for fixing the U.S. economy and trade deficit. This single 7-word response clarifies everything, explains everything, and leaves little else to discuss. We're just going to kill the dollar. There it is, the entire agenda in one short sentence. It explains everything we've been seeing domestically and globally. That one statement makes every other question irrelevant, or otherwise answers all economic questions and explains everything. Nothing else matters. I urge you to ponder that statement and all it implies. Doing so will provide you with the clarity to understand not only what is taking place today, but what is yet to come. It is important to note the specificity of the word kill. Stated in the active voice, it means an unambiguously intentional and deliberate act. The murder of our national currency, the United States dollar, is the ultimate agenda to be implemented under Obama. To kill our national currency will subvert the United States and destroy it from within.
Obama is running up trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars in new debt, wherein the Obama regime is actively trying to mathematically collapse the United States. And I firmly believe that they've done it. They've reached critical mass. It can't be walked back now.
This begs a number of questions, including what type of Americans would actually have as their objective the destruction of our national currency. To whom do they hold their allegiance, if not to the American people, whose life's work as well as the toil of our ancestors is represented in the form of wealth held in US dollars? Does this make any sense to us as Americans? The answer is, of course, no. By its very definition, to kill our national currency is an act of high treason by those engaged in this activity. It undermines the very sovereignty and survival of our nation and will have a life-changing impact on every citizen in the U.S. It will also impact every nation and the people of every nation on the planet, as the U.S. dollar is presently the world's reserve currency. It is an act that should result in the filing of criminal charges against the conspirators, a trial of their peers, and if convicted, a death sentence. It's that serious.
This was all done intentionally. It's called the Cloward and Piven strategy.
Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven were two lifelong members of the Democratic Socialists of America who taught sociology at Columbia University. Piven later went on to City University of New York. In May 1966, Nation magazine, that's a real red magazine, an article titled The Way to the Poor, they outlined their strategy, proposing to use grassroots radical organizations to push ever more strident demands for public services at all levels of government. The result, they predicted, would be a profound financial and political crisis that would unleash powerful forces for major economic reform at the national level. Do not be deluded by the propaganda. Their ultimate goal is to leave us so discouraged, demoralized, and exhausted that we throw our hands up in defeat. As Barney Frank said, the middle class will be too distracted to fight. It's not just Barney Frank, pretty close to Saul Alinsky.
Washington Times had an editorial today talking about how this influx threatens to transform the nation. They say this is a man-made disaster, but they say that this threatens to transform the nation. Do you believe that?
I think what we're seeing now is the old Piven-Cloward strategy applied to policy. This is this idea that you overload the system with crisis, and the system has a limited amount of capacity to deal with one crisis at a time. So we're now at a point where you get the EPA, and then you have the Taliban, and now you have student loans, and then the next day we have an immigration crisis. We can't deal with this. Washington is not equipped to deal with it. And this sort of opens up the area for the president to come in with executive power and try to resolve everything. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to like the way he resolves it.
This cadre of these neo-Stalinists, of whom the front man, of whom the puppet is this guy who is purportedly named Barack Obama, they taught them that the only way that you can destroy the quote-unquote evil United States and establish a global totalitarian regime is that you have to collapse the United States from the inside out, primarily economically. And the way you do that is by overloading the federal government with all of these entitlements and all of this debt, and then collapse the entire thing from the inside out.
We got Obama. Not bad. Not bad at all, I think. Not bad at all, I think. We got Obama. Not bad.
We are past the point of no return. We will not be able to stop what is coming, but must be wise enough to prepare and get out of the way. The murder plot involving the death of the dollar did not begin with Obama, but he and other conspirators have accelerated the plans, plots, and schemes for its demise. The ultimate objective is to implement an international currency in tandem with a system of global governance. The problem is that most people are not thinking large enough, nor do they understand the magnitude of the lie. They are not seeing the larger picture as their focus is diverted elsewhere. Meanwhile, others continue to adhere to or even perpetuate the dual-party meme of governance, holding dearly to the notion that there is a practical difference between the Republican and Democratic parties. Have we not seen sufficient evidence that they are now of one party acting in concert with each other? They cannot see the collusion and backroom deals and continue to hope that the next election will finally change the unchangeable continuity of agenda. Most of the elected officials are on board with the subjugation of the United States to a global system of governance. Some are actively facilitating this agenda, while others are making nominal objections on the stage of political theater, whilst hoping to earn a seat at the global table. It's entertainment for the globalists, distraction of the masses, and diversionary fodder for the talking heads in the media. America has become a captured operation, captured from within. Think of the Vichy French internal collaboration with the enemy, or softening the ground for a full takeover from within. The takeover of America has already happened. The collaborators have already been installed, and we are now on a path to complete subjugation of a larger global system of governance. If you continue to doubt this, how else would you explain the numerous examples of our dual-party governmental acquiescence of self-destruction? It is a magic show, and many are still captivated by the magician's many diversions, failing to realize that we are engaged in a global war, while being simultaneously hobbled by enemy infiltrators from within. One reason we are seeing new stock market highs is the rush to the dollar from other currencies, especially in the Eurozone. Another reason is the monetization of our debt by the Federal Reserve, despite the previous denials of Ben Bernanke and others. Simply put, the plan by the globalists or the central bankers and those behind them is to create this rush to the US dollar like passengers from a sinking ship to lifeboats. Once the lifeboats are filled to capacity, they will be sunk, and the United States dollar will be completely worthless. As in such a scenario, many will not make it. Many will die from what is coming.
What does an economic collapse in the United States, what does it look like? You can expect anywhere between 25 to 50 million dead in the first 90 days. You're going to have people dropping dead from violence, looting, rioting, right? You're going to have people dropping dead from lack of medication. We are the most medicated country on the planet. You're going to be seeing people drop dead from starvation, dehydration, and disease.
You see where this country's going. You're going to see more violence in the streets when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose. They lose it. And they're losing it worldwide.
There's going to be supply shortage. You're not going to be able to go to the supermarket and get your groceries. You're not going to be able to, pump gas in your car. The power grid is not going to be on. We're talking about a massive constriction in the flow of goods and services. I mean, it pretty much ceases during that point. That's what it's going to look like. It's not a pretty picture.
Deagle.com has been estimating a massive population reduction and economic collapse for the U.S. 2025 forecast, with an even lower population estimate at 65 million. This would mean 80% of the population would have to leave, die, or no longer be part of the United States within 10 years.
Like I said, it's going to burn to the ground, Greg. And it's, and the fire's already been lit. The biggest problem they have is they have regulators that don't regulate. Well, yeah. That's like having a fire department that won't answer the fire bell when it goes. And if you don't answer the fire bell when you're a fireman, things burn to the ground. And that's exactly what's going to happen to America. It's going to burn to the ground because of the absolute criminal, sociopathic nature of the people that have taken charge of your country. And it's going to burn to the ground.
We have the equivalent of a mentally defective baboon. And by that, I mean national level United States governance, not only in the executive branch, but also in the Congress. These people are not only all universally psychopaths, but they are all universally slack-jawed, mouth-breathing imbeciles.
Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems. Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner.
Tyranny with a capital T.
You should reject these voices.
Everything that's been done with torture, rendition, the NDAA, the Patriot Acts 1 and 2, from day one was focused on the American people, period. That's it. It's always been about erasing the Bill of Rights and Constitution and rolling out NSA spying publicly, saying it's for Al-Qaeda, rolling out total control and the end of any underground free market systems in the name of fighting Al-Qaeda, but really shutting down any type of free commerce. This is all about converting us from a free society to a tyranny with a capital T.
Just as certain a collapse of the dollar is coming, so will be chaos on the streets of America caused by this plan to kill the dollar. The central bankers and the leaders selected to govern each country have effectively used the Hegelian dialectic to implement their agenda, just as stated by George H.W. Bush on September the 11th, 1990. Their predetermined solution of a new world order is being formed before our very eyes. They've told us what they are doing, but we have chosen not to listen or failed to understand what was being said. The U.S. has always been the firewall against the globalists. By their persistence, infiltration of global elitists into our government, and covert subversion from within, we are being led to slaughter. There will be some who dare to resist the pillaging of our bank accounts, the erosion of our rights, and the enslavement that comes with the dismantling of America. The dust clouds visible on the far horizon that watchmen have been reporting for decades can now be seen as an attacking army of barbarians, whose fighters are now on the ladders and cannons are breaching our empire's outer walls. Who knows how long the inner walls of our empire will survive the next wave of their coming attack. Perhaps Ernest Hemingway said it best in referencing John Donne from his novel of the same name. And therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee.
In Ingmar Bergman's classic film, Wild Strawberries, the filmmaker, through dreams, nightmares, and flashbacks, tries to make sense out of his troubled past. In the following footage, as I make use of the film's most noted and ill-omened sequence, the opening nightmare of Wild Strawberries' chief character, I try to make sense out of America's troubling and disquieting future. Our next stop, America's Coming Nightmare. From the ashes of America's coming nightmare, we can rebuild the America we love and wish to protect from our nation's insidious enemy. Except the kernel of wheat falls into the ground and dies, taught the Lord Jesus Christ, it can bear no fruit. Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries, with its nightmarish scenes of despair and death, can indeed bear the fruit of an awakening and new America.